My Miles scorned me as a self-taught coder. "You're low-class trash. Leave." I built a $50 million 0-cents AI empire from nothing. So I said, "Fine," and moved to our Malibu estate. 6 months later, I stood on the balcony of our Malibu estate, the Pacific Ocean roaring below like it's trying to drown out the chaos in my head. The salt air stung my face, but I welcomed it, anything to feel something other than the betrayal burning through me. Just hours ago, I'd been staring at an encrypted email, one that wasn't meant for my eyes, revealing a plot that could have cost me everything. My $50 million 0-cents AI empire, my marriage, maybe even my life. My name is Ava Reynolds, and at 34, I'd built a tech dynasty from nothing, only to find myself teetering on the edge of losing it all. This wasn't just a story of success. It was a war, and the battlefield was my own family. Let me take you back to where it all began, to a place far less glamorous than this cliffside mansion. Seacrest, California was a sleepy coastal town where the rich vacationed and the rest of us survived. I grew up in a cramped apartment, the kind where the walls seemed to close in every night. My bedroom was a corner of chaos, stacked with my mom's cleaning supplies and broken furniture we couldn't afford to replace. Dad worked construction during the day, his hands calloused and cracked, then drove ride shares until midnight, his eyes bloodshot but always warm when he looked at me. Mom was a hotel maid, scrubbing floors for tourists, and a part-time cashier, counting pennies to keep our lights on. They sacrificed sleep, dreams, and years of their lives to give me a shot at something better. I was their only child, their hope, their everything. I learned early that hard work was the only currency we had. While my classmates flaunted designer jeans and new iPhones, I was piecing together outfits from thrift stores, learning to make hand-me-mounds look like high fashion. By 16, I was hustling, selling custom phone cases I designed with waitressing tips. I'd stay up late sketching designs under a flickering lamp, uploading them to an online store I built myself. Each sale, $10 0-cents here, $20 0-cents there, felt like a rebellion against the life I was born into. I wasn't just chasing money, I was chasing freedom. High school was where I met Liam Carter, the boy who'd change everything. Junior year, we were paired in the coding club, a mismatched duo from opposite worlds. Liam was the golden son of a real estate dynasty, raised in Pacific Heights, a gated enclave where the houses gleamed like they were polished daily. He had wavy blonde hair, ocean blue eyes, and a confidence that came from never worrying about money. I braced myself for his judgment. After all, I was the girl in faded sneakers, always scribbling business ideas in a tattered notebook. But Liam surprised me. "You're the one selling those phone cases online, right?" he asked during our first coding session, his smile genuine. "That's badass. Most kids just beg their parents for cash." I blinked, caught off guard. "It's just a side hustle," I mumbled, cheeks burning. But Liam leaned closer, his voice low and earnest. "No, Ava, it's more than that. You're building something. That's rare." His words lit a spark in me, one I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. We spent hours coding together, debugging lines and dreaming up apps, our differences fading with every shared idea. 3 months later, at a regional hackathon, we won first place with a prototype for a local business app. That night, under the glow of fairy lights at the after-party, Liam asked me out. I said yes, ignoring the voice in my head that warned I'd never fit into his world. Liam's family lived in a mansion that looked like it belonged in a movie. White columns, a sprawling lawn, and a fountain that probably cost more than our apartment. His mother, Evelyn Carter, greeted me with a smile so sharp it could cut glass. "So, you're Ava," she said, her eyes scanning me like I was a product with a missing barcode. "What do your parents do, dear?" Her tone dripped with curiosity, but not the kind. I squared my shoulders. "My dad's in construction and drives for a rideshare company. My mom's a maid and works retail." Evelyn's smile tightened, her perfectly manicured nails tapping her wine glass. "How industrious," she said, the word landing like a slap. Liam's father, Richard, was different. A tech investor who'd bootstrapped his way to millions, he had a quiet respect for anyone who worked hard. "Good to meet someone with drive," he said, shaking my hand firmly. But Liam's siblings, Sophie and Noah, took their cues from Evelyn, offering polite nods but keeping their distance, like I was an outsider they hadn't decided to trust. I tried not to let it sting, but it did. Every time I stepped into their world, I felt like I was auditioning for a role I'd never get. Danger found me early, though I didn't see it coming. At 17, after a school coding event, I was driving home on a winding cliffside road when my brakes failed. The car swerved, tires screeching, the ocean drop inches away. I managed to pull over, heart pounding, only to learn later from a mechanic that the brake lines had been tampered with. "This wasn't an accident," he said, his voice low. I didn't have proof, but whispers pointed to Evelyn's circle. Friends who didn't want that girl getting too close to Liam. The fear lingered, but I pushed it down. I had bigger dreams to chase. Liam got into Stanford, his path paved with privilege. I couldn't afford college, so I threw myself into coding boot camps, teaching myself AI algorithms late into the night. Evelyn didn't miss a chance to jab. "No college plans, Ava?" she asked at a family barbecue, her voice syrupy with pity. "You're so practical. But vision requires education." I bit my tongue, but Liam didn't. "Ava's got more vision than half the kids at Stanford, Mom," he said, his arm around me. I loved him for it. But Evelyn's words burrowed deep, planting doubts I fought to silence. By 23, I launched AdVibe, an AI-driven advertising platform from my parents' garage. I'd saved every penny from barista shifts, pouring it into a second-hand laptop and cloud servers. The early days were brutal. Sleepless nights, endless bugs, and clients who doubted a self-taught coder. Then came the first crisis. A rival startup hacked AdVibe's beta, leaking sensitive client data. Lawsuits loomed, and I worked 72 hours straight, barely eating, to patch the breach. The stress was crushing, but I saved the company. It was my first taste of how high the stakes could get. Liam proposed at 25. On a cliff overlooking the Pacific, his eyes shining with certainty. "You're my partner, Ava, in everything," he said. I said yes, my heart soaring, but the engagement party at his parents' estate was a reality check. Evelyn orchestrated a lavish affair, dripping with excess, but her whispers to guests cut deeper than any knife. "She's not quite Liam's equal, is she?" I overheard her say, her voice like venom wrapped in silk. I pretended not to hear, but the words clung to me, heavy and cold. Our wedding was small, on a Seacrest beach at sunset, with waves crashing as we vowed forever. My parents poured their savings into making it special, but Evelyn made sure everyone knew she'd funded the open bar and string quartet. After the ceremony, she pulled me aside, her perfume overwhelming. "You're lucky, Ava," she said, her smile icy. "Not many girls from your circumstances end up with a Carter." I forced a smile. "I'm lucky to have a partner who sees me for me," I said, holding her gaze. She didn't blink, but I saw the challenge in her eyes. Our first year of marriage was magic, despite the odds. We lived in a tiny loft, eating ramen and dreaming big. Liam started at a tech firm, his suits crisp, his briefcase a gift from his parents. I kept building AdVibe, my desk a corner of our bedroom cluttered with coffee mugs and code. But failure hit hard. My first AI venture tanked when a key investor bailed, citing my lack of a degree. "You're unproven," he said, his words echoing Evelyn's. Then came the death threats. An ex-partner I'd fired sent chilling messages, vowing to end me. I hired security, moved to a safe house for a month, and slept with a bat by my bed, jumping at every noise. Evelyn seized the moment to twist the knife. "Maybe this is a sign, Ava," she said at a family dinner, her tone dripping with concern. "Business is tough without a proper education. Have you considered something less ambitious?" I wanted to scream, but Liam stepped in. "She's doing what you never could, Mom, building something from nothing." His defense was everything, but Evelyn's smirk told me she'd never stop. And then I found my edge. A friend's boutique was failing, and I built an AI campaign that told their story, real, raw, human. It went viral, sales soaring 200%. That spark became AdVibe 2, a platform blending AI with emotional storytelling. I landed a national retailer, boosting their revenue by 40% in 6 months. The win was electric, but Evelyn dismissed it. "Don't get too comfortable," she said at a holiday party. "Startups like yours often fizzle out." I smiled, but inside, I was done playing nice. By 28, AdVibe was a juggernaut, and my income outstripped Liam's. We bought a sleek home in Marin County, a far cry from my childhood apartment. Evelyn toured it, her heels clicking on our hardwood. "Charming," she said, her tone implying it was anything but. "A good start." I bit back a retort. "It's our home," I said. "We love it." But the victories kept coming. AdVibe landed on Forbes' radar, and I was named a 30 under 30 innovator. Liam beamed, bragging to everyone. But Evelyn's compliments were barbed. "It's amazing what you've done without a degree," she'd say, her smile a mask. Danger struck again. AdVibe's office caught fire one night, flames licking the walls as I barely escaped. The fire marshal called it arson, and whispers pointed to a competitor with ties to Evelyn's network. I had no proof, but the timing was too perfect. Then came the regulatory probe. Congress summoned me to testify on AI ethics, claiming AdVibe's algorithms were too invasive. The pressure was suffocating, hours of prep, sleepless nights, and the threat of losing everything I'd built. I testified, held my ground, and cleared AdVibe's name. But the toll was brutal. I started helping Liam's family, despite Evelyn's disdain. Sophie's art gallery was drowning in debt. I gave her a $100,000 0-cents loan and connected her with mentors. Noah needed experimental cancer treatment, $200,000 0-cents, uncovered by insurance. I paid it, no questions asked. Evelyn hated it, her pride wounded by my ability to step in where she couldn't. "You don't need to play savior," she snapped at a family brunch. Liam shot back, "She's not playing, she's family." But I saw the truth in Evelyn's eyes. My success was a threat to her world. The real shock came when I discovered Liam had been paying Evelyn's yacht club fees from our joint account. $10,000 0-cents a month for 2 years without telling me. "Why?" I demanded, my voice shaking. He looked away. "Dad's investments tanked. Mom was humiliated. I didn't want you to worry." I wasn't angry about the money. It was the secrecy, the loyalty to his mother over me. That betrayal cut deeper than Evelyn's insults. The breaking point came at Sophie's promotion party, a glittering affair at the Carter estate. I wore a designer dress, my confidence hard-won, but Evelyn was already 3 glasses of wine deep when we arrived. The evening started civil, with Sophie thanking me publicly for funding her design program. "Ava believed in me," she said, her voice warm. Ava laughed. Too loud, too sharp. "She's got money to burn," she said, her words slurring. I braced myself, sensing the storm. At dinner, Evelyn's filter dissolved. "Ava's in some magazine now, isn't she?" she said, her voice mocking. "For someone with no education, you've fooled a lot of people." The table went silent. Liam's jaw tightened. "Mom, stop." She waved him off. I'm just saying there's a difference between luck and legitimacy. You can't buy class, Ava. I took a breath, steadying myself. I've never tried to buy anything but a future I earned, I said, my voice calm but firm. Evelyn's eyes narrowed, her wine glass trembling. You're nothing but a gold digger who got lucky with Liam's name. The room froze. Then came the final blow. You're low-class garbage, she spat, her voice echoing. Get out of my house. Get out of our lives. Liam stood, his chair crashing to the floor. Apologize, now. But Evelyn doubled down, her face flushed with rage. I'm done pretending she belongs here. Richard stayed silent. Sophie and Noah stared at their plates, and the guests shifted uncomfortably. I stood, my heart pounding, but my head high. Thank you, Evelyn, for finally saying what you mean, I said, and walked out, calling a lift as the night air hit me like a slap. In the car, I didn't cry. I felt free, like a weight I'd carried for years had shattered. But the freedom came with a cost. That night, alone in our Marin home, I found the email, encrypted, buried in Liam's laptop, which he'd left open. It was from Evelyn, to a rival CEO, dated the day of the fire. She's getting too big. Handle it. My blood ran cold. Was this proof she'd orchestrated the arson, the brake sabotage threats? I didn't know, but the betrayal was a knife to the heart. I booked a flight to our Malibu estate, needing space to breathe, to think. Malibu was my sanctuary, the ocean a constant reminder of what I'd fought for. I turned off my phone, swam in the dawn light, and let the waves wash away the noise. But the peace was fleeting. A stalker broke into the estate one night, leaving a note. You don't belong here. I escaped through a back door, heart racing, and called the police, who found no trace of the intruder. The fear lingered, but so did my resolve. I wasn't running anymore. Willem showed up a week later, unannounced, his suitcase thudding in the entryway. I couldn't stay away, he said, his eyes pleading. I wanted to believe him, but the email haunted me. You should have asked, I said, my voice cold. I'm not a visitor, Ava. I'm your husband. We talked for hours, the distance between us palpable. I told him I wasn't going back to the life we had, where I swallowed Evelyn's poison for his sake. I need a partner who chooses me, I said. He swore he did. But his promises felt hollow against a decade of enabling. The next blow came from AdVibe. Investors, spooked by the media storm around the regulatory probe, demanded I step down as CEO or lose $20 million, 0 cents in funding. I negotiated, fought, and won, but the stress was relentless. Then there was Evelyn's apology, a half-hearted call, her voice stiff. I may have been harsh, she said, as if calling me garbage was a minor slip. I didn't accept it. You don't get to rewrite history, I told her. You meant every word. She hung up, but not before hinting at another bombshell. You'll regret turning Liam against us. What did she mean? Was the encrypted email just the tip of a larger scheme? Why had Richard transferred $1 million, 0 cents offshore after her call? And what was Liam hiding, still caught between his mother's control and our marriage? As I stood on that Malibu balcony, the ocean roaring, I knew one thing. I'd built an empire from nothing, survived sabotage, threats, and betrayal. Whatever came next, I'd face it on my terms. The Malibu sunrise painted the ocean gold, but I felt no warmth. I stood in the kitchen, gripping a mug of coffee that had gone cold, the encrypted email from Evelyn to her mysterious ally looping in my mind like a virus. She's getting too big. Handle it. Those words were a blade, sharp and deliberate, and they cut deeper every time I replayed them. Was Evelyn behind the fire that nearly killed me? The sabotaged brakes? The stalker who'd slipped into our estate like a ghost? I didn't have answers, but the questions were enough to keep me awake, my nerves frayed like exposed wires. I was Ava Reynolds, the woman who'd built a $50 million 0-cents AI empire from a garage, but now I was fighting a war I hadn't seen coming, one where the enemy might be the family I'd married into. Liam was still asleep upstairs, his suitcase unpacked in the hallway, a silent reminder of his unannounced arrival last night. His presence was both a comfort and a complication. I loved him, God help me, but love wasn't enough when trust was crumbling. Why hadn't he told me about the yacht club payments? What else was he hiding? And why did I feel like the encrypted email was just the tip of a much darker iceberg? I set the mug down, my hands trembling, and opened my laptop. I'd forwarded the email to a private server, one AdVibe's top security engineer had set up for me during the regulatory probe. If Evelyn was plotting against me, I needed proof, hard, undeniable proof, before I confronted Liam or anyone else. The morning was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like it's holding its breath. I logged into the server, my fingers hesitating over the keys. The email was there, stark and incriminating, but it was encrypted with a level of sophistication I hadn't expected. Evelyn wasn't just a vindictive socialite. She was playing a game I didn't fully understand. I sent a message to my engineer, Zara, a former hacker who'd joined AdVibe after I'd outbid a rival for her talent. "Need this decrypted. Urgent," I wrote. "Discretion absolute." Zara replied within minutes. "On it. Give me 48 hours. This is military-grade stuff." Military-grade stuff? My stomach twisted. What was Evelyn involved in? I closed the laptop as Liam's footsteps creaked down the stairs. He looked exhausted, his blonde hair tousled, his eyes shadowed with worry. "You're up early," he said, his voice soft but cautious, like he was stepping into a minefield. I forced a smile, my heart racing. Couldn't sleep. Too much on my mind. He nodded, pouring himself coffee, but the silence between us was heavy, charged with unspoken truths. I wanted to confront him about the email, about Evelyn, about everything, but something held me back. If he was keeping secrets, I needed to know how deep they went before I showed my hand. "Ava," he said, setting his mug down, "we need to talk about last night, about us." His eyes searched mine, pleading for a way back to the partnership we'd built. I crossed my arms, leaning against the counter. "I'm listening." He took a deep breath. "I know I've let you down. I should have shut Mom down years ago, set boundaries, protected you. I'm sorry. But I'm here now, and I choose you. Always." His words were earnest, but they landed like rain on a parched desert. Welcome, but not enough to heal the cracks. "Choosing me means more than words, Liam," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. "It means standing up to your mother, not just when she crosses a line, but every time she disrespects me. It means no more secrets." His face fell, guilt flickering in his eyes. "The yacht club thing. I should have told you. I just didn't want to add to your stress. You were dealing with the probe, the fire." I cut him off. "It's not about the money, Liam. It's about trust. You hid something from me for 2 years. What else don't I know?" He opened his mouth, then closed it, like he was wrestling with something he couldn't say. That hesitation was a warning, a red flag waving in the wind. "Nothing," he said finally, but it sounded hollow. "I didn't push. Not yet." I needed Zara's decryption first. The day stretched on, tense and uneasy. I worked from the estate's glass-walled office, the ocean a constant backdrop as I fielded calls with AdVibe's executive team. The investor crisis was still simmering. They'd backed off their demand for my resignation, but only after I'd promised a 20% revenue bump by year's end. The pressure was relentless, but I thrived under it, or at least I used to. Now every decision felt like a tightrope walk, with Evelyn's shadow looming larger than ever. Liam tried to bridge the gap, cooking lunch and suggesting a walk on the beach, but I kept my distance, my mind on the email and the stalker's note. You don't belong here. Was it Evelyn's doing? Or something else entirely? That afternoon I got a call from Sophie, Liam's sister. Her voice was shaky, not her usual polished tone. "Ava, I need to talk to you. Alone." My pulse quickened. Sophie had always been Evelyn's echo, but since I'd bailed out her gallery, she'd softened toward me. "What's wrong?" I asked, stepping onto the balcony for privacy. She hesitated. "It's about Mom. I heard something I wasn't supposed to. Can we meet? Not at your place, somewhere neutral." The urgency in her voice sent a chill down my spine. "Name the place," I said. She chose a quiet cafe in Santa Monica, an hour's drive. "Don't tell Liam," she added. "Please." I agreed, my mind racing. What had Sophie overheard, and why the secrecy? I told Liam I was running errands, hating the lie but needing answers. The drive to Santa Monica was a blur of coastal highways and pounding thoughts. The cafe was tucked between boutiques, its patio shaded by palms. Sophie was already there, her auburn hair pulled back, her eyes darting nervously. She stood when she saw me, hugging me quickly. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We sat and she leaned in, her hands clasped tightly. "Ava, I don't know how to say this, but Mom's been meeting with someone dangerous. I overheard her on the phone last week talking about you." My blood ran cold. What did she say? Sophie glanced around, like she was afraid we'd be overheard. She was talking to a man, someone I didn't recognize. She said you were a problem and needed to be dealt with. She mentioned the fire, Ava, like she knew something about it. My heart stopped. The encrypted email flashed in my mind. Evelyn's words to the rival CEO? Handle it. Was this the same person? Did she say anything else? I pressed, my voice low. Sophie nodded, her eyes filling with tears. She said Liam was compromised because of you, that he'd choose wrong if it came down to it. I don't know what she meant, but it scared me. I sat back, my mind reeling. Compromised? Choose wrong? Was Evelyn planning something against Liam, too? Or was she manipulating him, pulling strings I couldn't see? "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, searching Sophie's face. She wiped her eyes. "Because you've been good to me, Ava. You saved my gallery, believed in me when Mom didn't. I can't stand by while she does whatever she's doing. But you can't tell her I told you. She'd destroy me." I reached for her hand, squeezing it. "I won't, I promise. But I need you to keep listening, Sophie. Anything you hear, no matter how small, tell me." She nodded, her resolve hardening. "I will." Driving back to Malibu, my mind was a storm. Sophie's words confirmed my worst fears. Evelyn wasn't just a cruel mother-in-law, she was a threat, possibly orchestrating a campaign to ruin me. But why? Was it jealousy, control, or something deeper? And what did she mean about Liam being compromised? The questions gnawed at me, each one a puzzle piece in a picture I wasn't sure I wanted to see. When I got home, Liam was on the phone, his voice low and tense. He hung up quickly when he saw me, his smile forced. "Everything okay?" he asked. I nodded, mirroring his fake ease. "Just errands." But the air between us crackled with suspicion. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something big. That night, danger struck again. I was alone in the office, reviewing AdVibe's quarterly projections, when the power cut out. The estate plunged into darkness, the ocean's roar the only sound. My heart raced as I grabbed my phone, its flashlight casting eerie shadows. A noise, a faint creak, came from the hallway. I froze, the stalker's note flashing in my mind. "You don't belong here." Was he back? I crept to the door, my breath shallow, and peered into the hall. Nothing. Then, a shadow moved at the far end, swift and deliberate. I backed away, my pulse hammering, and dialed 911, whispering my address. "Someone's in my house," I said, my voice barely audible. The operator told me to hide and stay on the line. I slipped into a closet, clutching a letter opener I'd grabbed from the desk. The seconds stretched into eternity, every sound amplified, the creak of floorboards, the rustle of fabric. Then, voices. Liam's, sharp and angry, and another, unfamiliar, low and menacing. "You were told to stay away," Liam said, his voice echoing down the hall. "She's not your problem." The other voice laughed, cold and guttural. "He's everyone's problem. You know what's at stake." My blood froze. Who was this man? And why was Liam talking to him like they'd met before? The voices faded, replaced by the wail of sirens. The police arrived, sweeping the estate, but found no one. The intruder had vanished. And Liam claimed he'd only heard a noise and gone to check. The cops left, skeptical but without evidence. Liam held me, his arms tight, but his explanation didn't add up. "I didn't see anyone," he said, his eyes avoiding mine. "I just shouted to scare them off." I didn't believe him, but I didn't call him out. Not yet. The letter opener was still in my hand, its weight a reminder of how close I'd come to danger. "We need to talk," I said, my voice firm. "Tomorrow, no more half-truths," he nodded, but the guilt in his eyes was unmistakable. I slept in the guest room that night, the door locked, my mind racing with questions. Who was the man in our house? What did Liam know? And how deep did Evelyn's web of secrets go? The next morning, Zara called with news on the email. "I cracked it," she said, her voice tense. "But you're not gonna like it. The recipient isn't just some CEO. It's Victor Kane, head of Nexus Corp, your biggest competitor. And the email wasn't a one-off. There's a chain, Ava, going back months. They've been planning something big, something to take you down." My heart sank. Nexus Corp was a tech giant, ruthless and well-funded, with a history of crushing startups like mine. "What kind of plan?" I asked, dreading the answer. Zara hesitated. "It's not clear yet, but there's mention of neutralizing ad vibe and personal leverage. They know things about you, Ava, private things." I thanked her, my mind spinning. Personal leverage, what did they have on me? Or was it on Liam? I confronted Liam that afternoon, the ocean crashing outside as I laid out everything. Sophie's warning, the intruder, the email chain. "Tell me the truth," I said, my voice shaking with anger and fear. "What do you know about your mother and Victor Kane?" Liam's face paled, his hands clenching. "I don't know anything about Kane," he said, but his voice wavered. "Mom's been acting strange, meeting people she won't talk about. But I thought it was just her usual power games." I stepped closer, my eyes locked on his. "And the man last night? You knew him, Liam. Don't lie to me." He ran a hand through his hair, his composure cracking. I've seen him before, at Mom's house, months ago. He's some kind of fixer. She said he was handling a business deal. I didn't ask questions." I stared at him, disbelief warring with betrayal. "You didn't ask questions? Someone's trying to destroy me, Liam, and you didn't think to tell me your mother's working with a fixer?" Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. "I trusted you. After everything. Evelyn's insults, the fire, the threats. I trusted you to have my back." Liam reached for me, but I stepped back. "I'm sorry, Ava," he said, his voice breaking. "I didn't know it was this serious. I thought I could handle it, keep you out of it. I was wrong. His apology was raw, but it wasn't enough. Trust, once broken, doesn't mend with words alone. The next blow came hours later. My phone buzzed with an anonymous text, a grainy photo of me and Liam at our wedding, my face circled in red with the words, "You can't hide." My hands shook as I showed it to Liam, who went white. "This is Kane," he said, his voice low. "It has to be." I didn't ask how he was so sure. I didn't want to know. Instead, I called Zara, upgrading our security protocols and hiring a private investigator to dig into Kane and Evelyn's connection. "Find everything," I told her. "Bank records, emails, anything that links them." I wasn't just fighting for AdVibe anymore. I was fighting for my life. The days that followed were a pressure cooker. AdVibe's board called an emergency meeting, spooked by rumors of a Nexus Corp takeover bid. "We need stability," they said, their eyes on me. "Step down, or we'll lose everything." I fought back, presenting a plan to counter Nexus Corp with a new AI product that could dominate the market. They gave me a month to prove it, but the clock was ticking. At home, Liam and I were strangers sharing a house, our conversations clipped, our touches rare. He swore he'd confront Evelyn, demand answers, but I didn't trust him to follow through. Not after his silence about the fixer. Then came Sophie's second call, her voice frantic. "Ava, I found something in Mom's office." A burner phone, hidden in a drawer. There were texts about you. One said, "The Malibu plan is set." What does that mean? My blood ran cold. The Malibu plan? Was it the stalker? Something worse? "Get out of there," I told her. "Don't let her know you found it." Sophie promised to send me screenshots, but an hour later she went silent. I called, texted, nothing. Panic clawed at me. Had Evelyn caught her? Was Sophie in danger because of me? That night, I couldn't stay still. I drove to a secluded beach, needing the ocean's roar to drown out my fear. As I stood on the sand, headlights flashed behind me. A black SUV idled at the lot's edge, its driver hidden. My heart raced as I backed away, clutching my keys like a weapon. The SUV revved, then peeled out, leaving me shaking. Was it Kane? Evelyn's fixer? Or just my paranoia? I didn't know, but I felt the noose tightening. When I got home, Liam was waiting, his face grim. "Sophie's in the hospital," he said, his voice hollow. "She was in a car accident. She's stable, but..." "It wasn't an accident, Ava. Her brakes were cut." My knees buckled. Sophie's warning, the burner phone, the Malibu plan, it was all connected. "This is Evelyn," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "She's targeting anyone who helps me." Liam shook his head, but doubt flickered in his eyes. "Mom's cruel, but this? I don't know." I grabbed his shoulders, forcing him to look at me. "Wake up, Liam. Your mother's not just cruel. She's dangerous, and if you don't choose a side, you're choosing her." The next morning, Zara sent the email chain's full decryption. It was worse than I'd feared. Evelyn and Kane had been plotting for a year, not just to tank AdVibe, but to frame me for fraud, using forged documents to trigger an SEC investigation. The personal leverage was a dossier on my past twisted to paint me as a con artist who'd manipulated Liam for his family's wealth. The final email mentioned a final solution set for next week, and my heart stopped. The stalker, the SUV, Sophie's accident, it was all building to something bigger, something I might not survive. I showed Liam the emails, watching his world crumble. "I didn't know," he whispered, tears in his eyes. "I swear, Ava, I didn't know." I believed him, but belief wasn't enough. "Then help me stop her," I said. "No more excuses." He nodded, his jaw set. We called Richard, demanding a meeting with Evelyn, but he stonewalled. "She's not herself," he said. "Give her time." Time was the one thing I didn't have. The breaking point came that night. I was in the office finalizing AdVibe's counter-strategy when the security system blared. Cameras showed a figure at the gate, hooded and carrying something. Gasoline cans. My heart raced as I grabbed Liam, who was already dialing the police. "Get to the safe room," he said, but I refused. "This ends now." We armed the system, locking down the estate, but the figure vanished before the cops arrived. On the gate, scrawled in red paint, was a single word: run. I didn't run. Instead, I called a press conference, announcing AdVibe's new AI product and exposing Nexus Corp's takeover attempt. The move was risky, but it put Kane on the defensive, buying me time. Then I confronted Evelyn, driving to Pacific Heights with Liam, my heart a war drum. She met